white-collar financial fraud is not a victimless crime. When the powerful break the law and take more than their fair share, there are fewer resources available for working people, small businesses, and families. And everyday Americans cannot lie to a bank about how much money they have in order to get a mortgage to buy a home, or a loan to keep their business afloat, or to send their child to college.
Joining me now is U.S. Federal Housing FHFA Director Bill Pulte. Bill, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Well, look, I want to switch gears and ask you about your recommendation. You recommended that the DOJ investigate New York Attorney General Letitia James over alleged mortgage fraud. The AG, Letitia James, has responded. We don't have the video, but here's the quote. "This investigation into me is nothing more than retribution. It's baseless. It has to do with the fact that on a power of attorney, I mistakenly indicated that I was a state of Virginia resident. And prior to that, I indicated to the mortgage broker that, in fact, in bold cap letters, that I am not a resident of Virginia and never will be. They just took the power of attorney and they're using that as a basis for enforcement of their investigation." Bill, do you know why she said she was a resident of Virginia on the power of attorney, if in fact she wasn't?
Well, I know that we are mortgage experts, and we only refer things that we think are mortgage fraud, and we stand 100% behind the letter. I'll let the letter speak for itself. I do know, and I have seen some reports from that subject's criminal defense lawyer saying certain things. I'll leave it to the DOJ to correct various things. But again, when we see mortgage fraud, we are going to report it. When we see mortgage fraud, we are going to prosecute it within the confines of our duties. And we are not going to be intimidated by a subject's criminal defense lawyer. We are not going to be intimidated by a politician, or just because you have an Esquire behind your name. We are not going to be intimidated by people. If we see mortgage fraud, we're going to do something about it. And I think that you're going to see us be taking this on in a big way. Mortgage fraud is a big problem. These companies are safe and sound, but where we see it, we are going to do something about it. And that subject's case is no different.
Well, what are the ramifications of this now that you've referred this for criminality to the DOJ?
Well, I would refer that to the DOJ. Again, as I say, we spend our days, we are mortgage experts. We are not politicians. I view this as an economic job. Obviously, the president can fire me at any time, so I guess in that way. But look, I look at this as an independent agency. We found the mortgage fraud, whether it be that particular subject or other subjects, and we work actively with the DOJ and different law enforcement agencies, and we will continue to do so. We are not going to be intimidated by somebody. Nobody is above the law, and that includes famous people or lawyers or what have you.
And what is your response to her saying, look, this was a mistake. I mistakenly wrote that I was a resident of Virginia?
Well, again, I don't want to respond to the specific comments that she would make or that the subject's criminal defense lawyer would make. I would just say generally that we will leave a lot of that up to the DOJ. I will say, though, however, just as a general matter, that occupancy fraud is a real issue. People saying that they're going to live in one state and going to it and really not even living there and getting better interest rates, getting better down payment terms, as well as people saying that people are part of their families that they're not. I mean, I'm making these general comments because we see patterns of this. We see patterns and practice of fraud across the United States. And this stuff has to stop, Maria.
Yeah.
And I can tell you right now, the banks and the lenders, they're responding to this. They're now looking at their underwriting, and that's exactly the intended effect that we want any subject who we refer to for DOJ.
In D.C., one of the lessons you learn early on as a staffer is be very careful who you go after, because the intern of today could be your boss of tomorrow. And I say that in light of this, where, you know, Letitia James, I thought, got on her high horse and went after Donald Trump for, no pun intended, a trumped up charge, right? I mean, regardless of who you are or how much you hate Donald Trump, that was a clear weaponization of the legal system. Creating a charge out of nowhere, materializing false sense of statute limitations that by any stretch of the imagination had expired. And we all knew it. I mean, like, again, the idea of just to remind, and I know you talk about it all the time, but I mean, just think about this. He falsified business records to himself that there was no victim of, that he wrote a check for to his lawyer. I mean, like, it on its face, it was so ridiculous. Okay, so let's just clear that up. But now we actually have, but remember, Letitia James, an elected official, in New York was also apparently under this mortgage scheme claiming Virginia as her home. Now, I'm not an expert on election law in every state, but I have a feeling that if you want to be the attorney general in New York, it's hard to claim that your homestead is Virginia. And frankly, I normally welcome people here to my state of Virginia, but in that case, I'll take a hard pass. But look, she, according to what you just said, like she falsified mortgage documents. She probably falsified tax documents too, because again, she was claiming another state for a tax deduction when we clearly know. It's hard to say, you know, I know my mom lives in Florida part of the year and everybody down there counts days. It's like, how many days are you in one state so that you can claim your residency versus another state? Ooh. But when you're the attorney general of New York, it's probably a given that you're supposed to be a resident of New York. So I have a feeling that she is going to regret going after Donald Trump because she opened herself up to this inquiry, to people looking at her. And I don't have any ounce of sorrow for her. I hope they throw the book at her because they thought they were so high and mighty on this lawfare. Like, we're going to outdo each other. Everybody wanted to, you had Alvin Bragg and Letitia James and Fani Willis, everybody trying to be who could be tougher on Donald Trump. And it's finally showing. It happened with Fani Willis with her boyfriend, Wade. Bragg has got his own issues in terms of what's going on in New York City. But I love these guys who thought they were so, like, they didn't think about the future. And that's why I was saying with the intern comment, like, people are so short-sighted sometimes. They don't think, hey, what's going to happen in a year or two or three? I don't think they ever predicted that he'd be back or that they would dig into their thing. So whether it's Fani Willis or Alvin Bragg or Letitia James, I think all of these people that have opened themselves up. It is fair game. Look at their past. Look at whether or not they abided by all the laws. And if they haven't, let's go hardcore at them. The difference is Trump was like, at the end of the day, as I explained this, like, right. So he pays his lawyer, a guy named Michael Cohen, who's a lawyer, a legal fee. Michael Cohen takes that legal fee and then does whatever. So again, Trump puts it in his book as a legal fee because he paid his lawyer, right? Okay. You could argue that, then the lawyer did X. But first of all, again, it's an internal bookkeeping exercise. The only people who look at that is that, it's like, did you put it in if you and I worked for the same company and we went out to lunch, who expenses it? Which column does it go under? But at the end of the day, it's still an expense to our company, right? So it doesn't really matter whether Sean Spicer bought lunch or Stephen Gardner paid for lunch. It's an internal bookkeeping issue. And that's what Trump was guilty of, apparently. But to your point, what's brilliant about this is that there is no I didn't realize that Virginia was another state when I said that that's where I lived and I was the New York Attorney General. I just didn't realize that these states weren't connected. And I mean, it doesn't, right? So to your point, her signature is on. She's lying about what state she's in. And the thing that also comes to mind and is something that I continue to find fascinating in the world, right? When you're Letitia James and you are running for Attorney General and you're refinancing your mortgage and saying that your homestead is Virginia, how do you not think that's going to come up? Okay. And then secondly, when you go after Donald Trump for bookkeeping stuff, how do you not think, like, the arrogance that some people have? That still amazes me sometimes when, there are people who go up for confirmation in front of the Senate and they've lied about their past or a degree that they had or something like that. And I'm always like, how do you guys not think that's not going to come up? Like, these guys have investigators, like they have federal agents that's what they do. And so for Letitia James to not think that this was ever going to happen is to me almost makes me like rethink how dumb I really think she is. But to your other point, like, I think that Kash Patel and others are brilliant in that they actually can. This is the opposite, right? Letitia James didn't see the hand in front of her face to say, dumb idea, flashing red. Kash Patel, on the other hand, saw like flashing yellow, like, okay, if we're going to go down this path, let's be bulletproof. Let's make sure we do it by the book. Let's make sure that we use the right people and it goes through the right process so that nobody can claim that we politicized or weaponized the judicial system the way that it happened. So I think it shows you the difference in the approach. But I also go back to a constant theme that I have been hitting on in my show every night, which is this second term of Trump is I think unbelievably consequential because, and this is just a passion of mine to really try to break through that. Like a normal sequential second term, same people, same policies. You just keep the train moving down the track. Okay, so I have a chief of staff. I got the same, January 20th, second term. I keep that chief of staff. I keep pushing the tax policy or whatever they're pushing. When these guys had 4 years out of office, they really had an opportunity to think about how to do things better and correctly. You almost had a chance, if you read some of the documents, that whether it's the Heritage Foundation or America First Policy or Stephen Miller's organization, America First Legal, they were wargaming things. And I don't know that this is one of them, but it's emblematic of the point that I'm making, which is that Kash Patel didn't do the reflexive, like, let's go get her. He thought, this is going to be seen as this. So what do I need to do to make sure that we do it right, that we're bulletproof? And that to me is, again, no one stops and pauses and thinks about that. But a normal FBI would have just been like, let's go. These guys are so much more strategic in their thinking and their actions because they've had the opportunity to say, if we get back into power, how do we do things smarter? How do we war game these things so we think about who the forces that are coming at us so that they don't get knocked down in the way that I think there was a lot of issues in the first term, mostly because President Trump was new and had a disloyal team in many cases around him. So I love this. I'm so excited that you're sharing this with me now and we're talking about the process because I think people sometimes keep banking these wins that President Trump has. And this isn't necessarily a win, but it is in a way because it gets back at these people.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe, be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.